What's up, YouTube? This is your boy John from Project Ellsworth, and I am back with you today to give you my review of Clive Barker's 1987 masterpiece, Hellraiser. I'm gonna pass out. So Hellraiser begins with a dude named Frank Cotton buying one of these puzzle boxes off of some little sweaty dude, and he's paying for this puzzle box with dirty money. And I don't mean stolen money, I mean like the money literally has dirt on it. And Frank has to have the dirtiest fingernails that I've ever seen on a human being in my life. And the little sweaty dude that Frank's buying this box off of, he sounds like the little dude in Resident Evil 4 who is hiding behind buildings that you buy weapons off of. So the next time we see Frank, he's in a room, sitting on the floor, surrounded by candles, holding one of these boxes. Does that sound like a good idea to you? I don't think so. He starts messing around with this box. Of course, it'd be kind of boring if he didn't mess with the box. You gotta mess with the box.
What's in the box?
And all of a sudden, out of the darkness comes all these chains flying in with hooks on them. They grab a hold of Frank and rip him to pieces. It's the international sign for chains. And now the Cenobites show up. The Cenobites are like a really cheerful group. They're sort of like a dominatrix goth band. They show up and they see that Frank has been ripped to pieces, and the leader of the Cenobites, Pinhead, goes over and starts pulling apart the pieces, and he finds 4 pieces that used to be Frank's face, and he puts them back together like a bloody baloney puzzle. Then he picks up the box, messes with it, puts it back in its original form, and they immediately disappear, and this room looks like nothing ever happened in it. Next we meet Frank's brother Larry and his wife Julia. We see them entering this big old house where they are planning to and then moving into this house, which is Frank and Larry's mother's house. It's the house that those 2 boys grew up in. And as Larry and Julia are moving around the house, we see old food in the refrigerator. We see food on tables and cans and bottles on counters. There's full ashtrays all over the house. There's like an old filthy mattress sitting on the floor with no bed frame, dirty blankets. Just the house is a complete mess, but it's very obvious that somebody has been squatting in this house. Larry leans over, picks up a big stack of pictures, and sees his brother Frank is the one who has been squatting in this house. The pictures are sexually explicit pictures of Frank with many, many different women. I guess they weren't too sexually explicit. The movie was rated R. It's probably open to your interpretation too as far as how explicit something is, right? Right? Whatever. But it is very obvious that it has been a very long time since anyone has been here. So now it's moving day, and we see Larry and 2 other movers attempting to move a mattress from the front door up the steps to the bedroom. Why Frank is moving this bed, I have no idea. And actually, I don't think I've ever seen 3 people move one mattress in my life. Whatever. So Julia seems distracted. She doesn't seem exactly happy. You can tell that there's something on her mind. Her mind is just somewhere else. So she wanders off. She actually wanders up to the attic. She enters a room in the attic, and then we start seeing flashbacks. She's thinking about a love affair that she previously had with guess who? That's right. Yep, she had an affair with Frank. So kind of with scenes fading in and out, we see Julia in one set of scenes where she's daydreaming of her affair with Frank, and it's continuously flashing over to see Larry moving towards a nail sticking out of the wall while he's moving this mattress, and you can see him struggling, pulling on this mattress, telling them to push, and the nail is getting closer and closer to his hand, and it's just the most uncomfortable feeling. This is brilliant filmmaking. Something so simple makes you feel so uncomfortable because you know it's getting ready to happen, and you know it's gonna suck. And bang! Larry catches his hand on that nail, and it rips him wide open. So he stumbles up into the attic. He approaches Julia, he's holding his hand, and he is bleeding all over the floor. And they definitely make it a point to show you how much blood that this dude is leaking down onto the floorboards of this attic. So he's holding his hand, he's telling Julia, I'm going to pass out, you know me and blood, I think I'm going to throw up. She says, you're not going to pass out, you're not going to throw up, blah, 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 blah. And she takes Larry downstairs. The daughter, Kirsty, Larry's daughter, Kirsty, Julia's stepdaughter, never mentioned her. They get Larry out of the house and they take him to the ER. But then we jump upstairs to that attic, and this is where things start to get good. They show a close-up of the blood on the floor being absorbed down into the nail holes that are holding the floorboards down. Then they pan underneath of the floorboards, and you can see something starting to form under the floor. And then you start to see what appears to be arms coming up through the floor one at a time. It's kind of reminiscent of what you saw in John Carpenter's The Thing. This thing starts to come out of the floor. It's filmed in such a way that you can tell that it was something there was melted, but then they're like reversing the film, and you can see it forming and building. And all of a sudden you can see what appears to be a skull and a head and flesh forming. And then whatever the hell this thing is behind it sticks into the head, which we now know were the brain stems and the spine and all that stuff. Something is coming to life and regenerating out of this floor. Frank's back. Exactly. It's Frank. Frank is starting to regenerate. He's coming out of the floor, but he's not all the way there. At this point, he is maybe halfway back, or a little less than halfway back. And after Kirsty and Larry and Julia return from the ER, Julia wanders back up into that attic, I guess to have a little bit more daydreaming going on. She goes into this attic, she walks into the room, and something grabs her around her ankle. She looks down, and she has no idea what the hell it is that she's looking at, but whatever it is, she backs away, and this thing is crawling towards her on its hands, but he has no use of his legs. She goes up to the door, he holds the door shut, and tells her, don't look at me, calls her by name, and she says, tell me who you are, and he says,
Frank.
It's Frank. And Frank looks tore up. Frank looks like, sort of like nougat. He looks like a candy bar with eyes. It's Frank. He's all wet. It's nasty. But it is awesome. So now, Frank explains to Julia that Larry's blood on the floor is bringing him back, or has brought him back to this point. And what he needs from Julia is for her to get him more blood, bring him more victims, so that he can fully regenerate, that they can be back together again the way that they used to be, and that they can get out of there and make an escape, just beat feet and leave before the Cenobites get back and before the Cenobites find them. Reluctantly, Julia agrees. That must be good loving. Hellraiser is an amazing movie in every way possible. It is well acted, it is well filmed, perfectly cast, the effects are amazing. Everything about this, the directing and writing are top notch. This movie has been around now for 13 plus 21, 34 years, going on 34 years. So I have to assume that most of you horror fans out there have already seen Hellraiser. If you haven't seen Hellraiser, stop this video and go watch Hellraiser. The effects in this movie, at no point in this movie do you feel like you're watching special effects. Well, maybe one, and I'll get on that in a second. You don't feel like you're watching special effects in this movie. The scenes where you see Frank, where he doesn't have skin, and I know in my mind, I'm telling myself, that's exactly what a human would look like if he didn't have skin. When he's coming up out of the floor, before he's formed back as far, as he gets, I said, of course, that's exactly what it would look like if a melted human came up out of the ground. It's spectacular. The effects alone for me are enough to love Hellraiser. Here's the one bad effect. There's one effect in this movie where Kirsty is in a hospital and she starts tripping again, and like the hospital wall opens up and she goes into this wall and she starts walking down this dark corridor as silly people in horror movies do, and she is then chased down by something that almost looks like an upside down like pterodactyl finger that has mated with the thing from Belial from Basket Case. It's like a Belial pterodactyl finger hybrid starts chasing her down the hallway, and he's never touches the ground. He's hands on the walls running down the hallway, and it's just the most ridiculous looking thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. But that is still kind of cool. And then there's this stinking puzzle box. This thing right here is one of my favorite things in the history of horror movies. I was on a live stream a few months ago, and one of the people that were watching the stream actually asked myself and all the other people that were on the stream, if you could have any prop from any horror movie ever, what would that prop be? And I spit out the puzzle box from Hellraiser. Pretty damn fast. There was like no thought involved. I just absolutely, I think that box is cool. I have this little piece of crap replica box that actually came in 6 pieces. It's just literally a little box to put things in. I've had that thing since I was probably 20 years old. I know I still lived with my parents, and I bought that thing for next to nothing, but I would like to have my hands on an actual, like, battery-operated, functioning puzzle box. That would be, like, the mecca of my collection. I just, that would be like something that I have always wanted and would love to have one day. And then there's Pinhead. Pinhead is one of the coolest friggin' characters in any movie ever, let alone just horror movies. He's just iconic. He's cool as hell. I mean, granted, from the neck down, he looks like he was in The Cure or something like that. But just the Doug Bradley character, Pinhead, is just absolutely amazing. I met Doug Bradley many, many years ago, and you would have never known that that little dude was actually Pinhead. When I walked into the room, he was actually sitting at a table with somebody sitting next to him. I don't know if they were just the person who was traveling with him, but nobody was there with him. It almost seemed like nobody knew that Doug Bradley sitting at that table was Pinhead. Pretty amazing. He's actually the very first person that I ever met at a horror convention in my life. Wound up going outside and having a cigarette with him. Back in the day when I smoked. It was just neat. I didn't want to be like fanboy with him and badger the crap out of him, but there's no way in the world that I'm not going to stand there and smoke a cigarette with Doug Bradley. Whatever. He was really cool, nice guy, and that was that. And there are also a couple scenes in this movie that were really awesome that Pinhead wasn't involved in, and there were no Cenobites around. One of them was after Julia kills some. I guess this is a spoiler. After Julia kills the first person that she brings home for Frank, there's a scene where you can kind of see that she's coming unglued a little bit. She goes into the bathroom and she's trying to wash the blood off of herself, and she's just looking in the mirror and she's got like spots of blood all over her face. And just the lighting and the way that that's filmed, it's just so friggin' creepy. It's so neat. And I don't even know if it was intentional. Maybe it was, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I thought that scene was amazing. And then there's another scene that involved Kirsty, Julia and Larry's daughter, where she is having a nightmare. And she walks into a room, and this whole scene is shot in slow motion. She walks into a room, and she sees a body lying on a table with a white sheet over it. And the closer that she gets to this white sheet, the redder the sheet is becoming. It's like the body is bleeding out. There are feathers floating all over the room, landing on the body, also being soaked in blood. And the whole time that this is going on, again, it's in slow motion, and you hear a baby screaming. It is so friggin' creepy. That, for me, is actually probably the creepiest scene in this entire movie, and it didn't even involve Pinhead or the Cenobites. Just really cool, very, very good directing and filmmaking. Clive Barker, I know he did a few things before he made Hellraiser. He was the writer and director of Hellraiser. Strangely enough, Clive Barker has only directed 6 movies, including Hellraiser. But he did a few things before Hellraiser, and one of which was the movie Rawhead Rex. I'm sure many of you out there have heard of that movie as well. But the movie that absolutely made him a legend in my eyes, he could have made Hellraiser and never done anything again. And from my point of view, Clive Barker would have been a legend. He's the guy that created this box, and he's the guy that created Pinhead. He's the man. God bless Clive Barker. Forgot who I was talking about for a second there. It's been a long day. Shut up. When I do one of these reviews about a movie that I love, I get overexcited and I start rambling. And at this point, I think I'm done rambling. I'm going to get out of here. Do me a favor. Leave me some comments down below and let me know what you think of Clive Barker as a filmmaker, what you thought of Hellraiser, and what you think of Pinhead as a character. I'm getting out of here. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really like this video and you've been enjoying my content up to this point, please do me a huge personal favor. Click that subscribe button and ring that bell. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have a kick-ass day. And thank you for watching. Later, folks.